Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on automating question generation using AI. My name is Rohan, and I'm the host and moderator for today's session. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce you to our presenter for today, Mr. Sandeep Kulkarni. Sandeep is an evangelist for AI in EdTech with over 20 years of experience in the education domain and works with the Harbinger Group. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Ensure your microphone is on mute through the session. If you cannot hear the audio, ensure you have selected the right speaker for audio output. Test your speaker to ensure it is working fine from the audio settings option on the lower left corner of your screen. If necessary, dial in using the link provided on the screen. The duration for the session would be approximately 30 minutes. The first 20 minutes are for the presentation, and we would utilize the last 10 minutes for questions. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel, and I'll be happy to bring them up for Sandeep to answer. Now, without further ado, I will turn the time over to Sandeep.
Hello all, and welcome to this webinar on especially we are talking today about the webinar agenda in front of you. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at applications of AI in education. Then I'll throw some light on how AI optimizes question creation. Then we'll have a quick demonstration of Quillions, which is world's first AI-powered question generator. Then I'll talk about how to use Quillions, why Quillions, then how we can get more stuff for this platform, and then of course where we can use Quillions for. And after that, I'll be taking questions from you, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So without wasting more time, like what I'll do is now some of the applications of AI in education. We will talk about this. So basically, when we see there is a lot of content overload, and when you look at the education field or education domain nowadays, so it is AI is entering various fields, and if you really look at various applications which are getting benefited by the intervention of AI in education, then they are like course recommendation. So students who are interested in knowing more about which courses to take based on their qualification and interest, so AI is helping them selecting and getting recommendations on the courses. Student screening, summary creation, image processing are some of these examples. In image processing, normally what happens is, let's say you have a lot of text available with you in the summary format, and you want to have you want to create some flashcards from that text. Then based on the summarized text, AI recommends images, and then you can use those images in your e-learning programs. AI is a lot of nowadays, like with Quillions as an example, it is used for question generation. We will of course throw more light on it in today's webinar, and we're going to see the demonstration as well. And of course, like when the questions are generated, then it is being used for assessment and quiz creation. So when we look at again the AI in education, I can tell you that nowadays it is being used for teacher and AI collaboration. It is being used extensively for differentiated and individualized learning programs. Universal access to all students. So nowadays, like people want to learn from whatever sources available, and using multiple sources, AI help them in getting education to their screens. Automating administrative tasks, tutoring and support outside the class are some of more examples of where AI is being used currently. So how AI optimizes question creation. So this is a very important question. So in today's era, wherein there is a lot of content overload, and we see so much of content there, and then creating questions is really a tedious task. I'm sure like teachers on this webinar, and then teaching assistants who are handling the tough task of assessing the students and creating questions, they may understand that how painful or how painstaking it is to create questions. So on an average, I was going through research and I found that creating real good quality question takes about 10 to 15 minutes of time. So in that process, one need to go through the content, understand the context of it, then decide what kind of question one need to create, whether it is a multiple choice, it is a fill in the blank, or it is a describe or explain kind of question, or WH or 5 Ws kind of question, wherein it is like what, where, when, how kind of questions. So looking at these difficulties, and we when I come across Williams, so what happens is Williams makes this question creation pretty easy, and it uses a lot of AI algorithms and machine learning to generate questions. So what is Quilliams? So this Quilliams is world's first AI powered platform for automatically generating questions from textual content. So this was basically created with an idea of really, helping educators, instructional designers, and other e-learning professionals who spend a considerable amount of time in question creation. So what Williams does is it basically, takes your content, analyzes it, passes it through different algorithms which are, designed by Williams using NLP. And of course, like it understands, it does a lot of machine learning to create WH kind of questions. So we'll come to see a quick demonstration of Williams, where we'll see how Williams is leveraging the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to make the process of question creation very simple and efficient. So what I feel is, instead of talking and showing you some screens, it is very pretty exciting to see how Quillians works, and we'll see Quillians in action directly. I understand, like some of you maybe maybe are already using Quillians and you have some exposure to it, but I'm sure like this demonstration will help you in understanding how you can use it for multiple other purposes as well. So I'm switching my screen to take you to the Quillians platform directly. And here what we'll do is, once I log on to the platform, we'll see how question creation becomes pretty simple and easy with Quillians. So I'm logging on to the Quillians now. And once I'm logged in, then what it does is, it basically opens up an area where we can just copy or paste our content here. Even the facilities there to upload a PDF. And then, of course, like as a platform users, to make it easier, of course, Quillians gives the sample text. But I thought instead of using sample text given by Quillians, why not try our own text here? So I have some text available with me, which is about history of Las Vegas, and let's say if we can generate what kind of questions based on this. So what I'm doing is I'm just like copying this entire text and bringing it here on Williams platform. So I have just like copied and pasted it here. So you see there are 907 words in this particular content which we have just pasted. And Quillian says that the word count must be between 300 and 3,000 words. So I suppose like the minimum 300 words are needed because it needs that minimum mass to process it through NLP and related AI algorithms to create meaningful questions out of this. So what is expected is once like we have copied and pasted this text, we need to give title to this. So I'm just mentioning it as Las Vegas, and I need to select a domain. So very importantly, selecting domain is pretty important because once we give the domain, then it understands from where to look for the more details using different corpuses which are available. So I'm selecting history as a domain, and you'll see there are different domains which Quillian supports, like geography, natural sciences, technology, and of course there are many more, including management, social sciences, human resource science, and so forth. So let me select history as a domain here, and now we will, of course, proceed to the next step. But before we proceed to the next step, let's see, what are those 4 steps using which Quillians create questions. So once we submitted we have just completed our step 1, which is submit content. You can see it on the right side of your screen. Then once we have done that and we say proceed, then it will generate few keywords, and we need to choose keywords from the keywords which are generated by Quillians. So it is very important to choose these keywords, because Quillians then understands on the basis of selected keywords by the user. It helps Quillians in generating questions. So it is like giving those context to Quillians to generate questions what you like. So so you can see that here, some keywords are suggested by Quillians here. So if I feel that, okay, I just don't want this Flamingo Hotel, I don't want any questions on that, but I need questions on Howard Hughes or Elvis Presley and on Sahara or something like that. And I don't want any question on, let's say, World War II. So I'm just like, taking out that keyword. And once I am done with this step, then I just say proceed. And in the third step now, which is again pretty important, because it allows me to review the content. And in this content review step, which is very important, what it does is it gives us an option to reduce the lengthy sentences, or if there are subjective sentences, we can correct those. If there are some incomplete sentences, then we can make them complete. And of course, we can do some, if there are some pronoun replacements needed, then we can do that as well. So on the right hand side, you can see that there are 10 places where we need to replace pronouns. And if I wish to take your attention to the bottom left corner of the screen, then you can see that there is a little a circle where it is mentioned as 62%, which is the content readiness meter. So it is telling us that the content which we have tested, and it is requesting us to review it, is about 62% ready. So of course, if I don't have time or I just want to proceed, I can just click on get question ideas, and it will throw questions back to us. But it is always recommended that we review this content to make it more perfect, or make it more ready rather, for Quillians to process it and generate better quality questions. So it is a trade-off. Let's say you don't invest your time in selecting right keywords or deselecting unwanted keywords, and reviewing the content. You may get questions which are of less quality, and you need to work on it more. So one thing again, we need to understand that with the limitations of AI technology, the question quality, or the kind of questions which are generated, are about say, let's say 70% accurate. So we still see that using Quillians, there is need of human in the loop, where human intervention is needed to the tune of 20-30%, where you just need to edit the questions which are generated, or make it some tweaks so that you can make them usable. But still, this provides us a great facility, or great uh, thing wherein we will be able to the teachers or the users would be able to save about 60-70% of their time in creating questions. So let's see, like, maybe I'll just like scroll, and then maybe for showing you how the pronouns are to be replaced, then I'll just like say, so here it is talking about, it was officially founded on May 15. So if I give this question to Quillian, then it will create question on it. So that question may not be good. So you cannot say that, if it is a fill in the blank, then Dash was officially founded on May 15, and we cannot say the correct answer is it. So it needs to be something, yeah. So here it should be Las Vegas. So what I'm doing here is I'm just replacing that. It gives me option to replace with Las Vegas, and now you can see from 62%, now our content readiness has gone up to 64%. So if we invest some time here, then it will give us better quality questions. So for the demonstration purpose, what I'll do is I'll just say, okay, get question ideas, and let's see what kind of questions Quillians gives us. So here you can see that it is giving us it is telling us that, okay, your content is still not showing the readiness as 90% or more, but still we can say continue anyway, and we can see what kind of questions we're getting. So here now, it has started processing the text. It has started processing and understanding the context. It has started looking at the keywords which we have selected, and after the reviewing the content, now it has generated questions. Now you can see it has already generated 33 questions in almost no time. So on an average, while I was using Quillian, and I was trying various type of content on this, I found that about, if you have a 10-page content and it produces about 50 questions in 90 seconds of time. So that kind of, speed I got in my earlier reviews. So here, if you see now it has generated 33 questions. And on the right side, you can see that, out of those 33, there are 2 short answers. There are 21 multiple choice questions and there are 10 recall questions here. So let's see, what kind of short answer questions we got here. So these are the 2. So basically the short answer questions are like describe and explain. So here it is asking like describe strip, and you can see the answer as well. So it is also gives us multiple facilities, like I can just go and edit the question or edit the answer. And once you click on that, so basically, you can just go type here, and then let's say you want to say something more about the strip, and then you just can go and just type in there. And then you can just use it. If you feel that, okay, a particular question is not that good and may not be usable, you can just go and delete that. So whatever we do with this, it helps Quillians in learning through it. So the machine learning is applied so that next time when you use it or somebody else uses it, they can get better quality questions again. So, so you have a facility to see. Let's say now, we see what kind of multiple choice questions it is giving us, and you can see that in Dash, the billionaire and businessman Howard Hughes was staying at the Desert Inn, and then you can see the correct answer is 1966. So it is again very tedious task for teachers to arrive at meaningful distractors which are sufficiently confusing. So here you can see that for 1966 it has given suggestions as 1968, 78, and 81. So, and if you feel that they're still not good, you can just click on show more and it will give you some more years. And if you feel that, okay, now I don't want 81, so I just delete this. I don't want, let's say, 77, so I am deleting this, and then what remains is my distractor here. So if you want to see, so out of curiosity, okay, from where this question is coming. So what is the source of question for this particular thing? So I'll just go here and, if I click on this icon, then you'll be able to see that, okay, this particular multiple choice question which is there is coming from this part of the text which we have copied and pasted on Quillians. So you'll be able to understand the context. Okay, so from where this question is coming. Yeah, so we have seen different type of questions which Quillians is creating, and let's say if I go and see now what kind of recall questions are there, you can see that they are basically fill in the blank kind of questions, or you can see here. So there is something here called as Go Premium, and I'm sure you must be interested in knowing. So what is the premium questions here? So if I click on Go Premium, you will see that all questions which are here in the premium area are coming out of the machine learning, and all these questions are like the 5Ws, which are what, where, when kind of questions. So you can see that what was the name of the city that tried to attack workers, Vegas. So you can see the answer, and you may see that, okay, this question may not make sense or not making sense. So you can just go and delete those questions. Okay, so after looking at this, what we can do is based on number of questions which are created and what you select here. So Quillians gives us a facility to export these questions so that you can use it for different purposes. So let's say what it gives. So when I click on export, so Quillians is giving me facility to export these questions in text format. So I can just take that text and use it wherever I want to use it on LLMs or something. I can use that. I want to create a question paper directly from this, I can do that. Then it is also allowing me to export in the PDF format. It is also allowing me to export in Word format. And interestingly, the QTI format is also provided. So this is a great relief, yeah, because I understand how important it is for us to import these questions into the LMSs which we're using, or platforms which are using. And QTI really helps us in bringing those questions which are created by Quillians onto our LMS. And the last one is here QQ, which is Quilly Quiz. So this is a kind of quick self-assessment kind of thing given by Quillian. So if you click on this Quilly Quiz, then it gives you a ready-made quiz created using flashcards, and then you will be able to share this Quilly Quiz. It's just a URL, and you can just share the URL with anybody you want, and they would be able to take the quiz. So let's say you want to request someone to, okay, do you want to test your knowledge on Las Vegas? And here is a quiz. And you can just share that URL, and then they would be able to see that. So if we have a minute, then maybe I'll just see whether we can do that. Yeah. So I have just clicked on Quilly Quiz, and you can see that now it is giving me the question 1 of 52, and the question is here, and I just click on the flashcard, then it flashes and gives me answer. I go to the next one, and then it keeps on giving me all the questions which you have created. And it's just a self-assessment. I just click on that, see the answer, and check whether my answer was correct or not. And it gives us facility to, of course, yeah, was your answer correct? So I say yes, then my score would go up. And this is again, everything is self-assessment. And yeah, so this is about QuillQuiz. So coming back to the Quillians platform again, I suggest you to definitely try the platform if you have not done it so far. And you can, of course, there's a free registration available, and you can just go and try to use the platform. So I'm sure you may be having a number of questions in your mind, so you can just type the questions in your Q&A window, and I'll try to answer as much as possible. So taking you back to my presentation. So after we have seen the Quillians demonstration, so basically, why Quillians? So I feel that, it creates questions in seconds. So we have seen that in about 90 seconds, it could generate very good, 30, 40 questions for us. That can be used for self-assessment, quiz maker. So you can just take out the questions and, use on your own, your preferred quiz creation program. You can do that. Of course, it gives us a range of question types. So it is like generate WH type or multiple choices, recall, wherein they are the fill in the blank questions, true or false, and short answer, which is describe and explain. And very interestingly, Williams is also providing API support. So let's say you are having a EdTech platform you're using, then Williams APIs can be used so that your content using which you are creating your e-learning programs, the same content can be used, just pushed on to Williams to get questions out of it. Yeah. So for getting most out of Williams, again, we need to be sure that Williams works best with the content which is structured and factual, and it doesn't follow too complex a writing style. So let's say if your content is too complex, wherein you're using some mathematical formulas, or you're using some tables, images, or bulleted list, that may not work with Quillians. So while using Quillians, we need to understand that what works better with Quillians. Then again, of course, we have seen that keyword selection is so important. So based on the selected keywords, then it helps us creating questions. The content review step was important. We have seen that too, by reviewing the content, by replacing the pronouns or making the sentences simpler. It helps us in getting better quality questions. And of course, the tweaking is pretty simple and easy. You have seen that by just clicking on a question or answer, you will be able to tweak the questions. And of course, once you export it, then all these questions you are exported, the question sets remain in your dashboard. So you can anytime revisit your, using your login, and you will be able to see that in your dashboard. So basically, where Quillians can be used. So teachers or teaching assistants can use Quillians for question creation, assessments, and quiz creation. There is a lot of benefits for publishers, the digital content publishers. So they would be able to use this to create teacher support material or student support supplementary material, wherein they are anyway requiring questions in bulk. So they create questions in thousands and thousands of numbers. So the instructional designers or assessment team, which is working with publishers, using Quillians, they would be able to save 70% of their time. Of course, then EdTech platforms using API integration, they would be able to use that. Corporate learning platforms can use it for induction training, sales training, or compliance training. There are multiple subscription options available wherein you can use it Quillians for free for life. It gives you certain limited set of questions. You can go for pro subscription, and it gives you a better facilities like a premium questions in like WH, and it gives you better different kind of export formats available. And of course, the Quillians APIs are available for business subscriptions. So this has been launched a while ago, and people are talking about it, people are using it. So there are thousands of professionals from education world, they are using Quillians. I can see that lot many people are talking good about it, and then they are really getting benefited out of Quillians. So thanks to the creators by making this available, I think the life of teacher become more easier and easier because they could save 60-70% of their time in creating questions. Yeah, so I think this brings us to the end of my presentation and my talk. So over to Rohan.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you. We will go ahead and take a few questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. It looks like we have a few questions coming in.
Yeah, so I can see very interesting questions coming here. So Bruce is asking me, can Sandeep discuss the difference between generating questions direct from the content? The training text says, when adding user type, their fully qualified email address, okay, versus application of content. So which is the following formats of the email address would be use add user, John Doe, something, and then he has mentioned thanks. So uh, I'm not sure whether I'm understanding this correctly, but so he's asking me about difference between generating questions direct from the content and how we can do that. Yeah. So if this is the case, then of course, so there is something called as generative algorithms which are being used here. So this is currently taken care by Williams algorithms, wherein we use a lot of natural language processing and our Williams like proprietary algorithms which are written using artificial intelligence to create the content. So there is one attendee who is asking, what machine learning algorithms do you use to predict, what is important to be asked about? So here, when you look at the machine learning algorithms, and what we do is basically machine learning make Williams learn from how the people using Williams basically. So based on what kind of content they are testing, what kind of editing they are doing, or what kind of questions they are deleting, Williams understand that what kind of questions are good or where the editing is happening, and based on that machine learning, Williams platform becomes better and better. I think, yeah. So there are many more questions. Yeah, so one attendee is asking me, does it support multiple languages? So this is pretty interesting question. Thanks for this. So currently, Williams supports English language. So primarily, you can use it for on anything which is in English. And other languages are not there currently, but I'm sure Williams may have it on their roadmap to support other languages as well. So again, Bruce is asking, is there an API, for example, pass a study guide to Williams and have it created questions? So yes, absolutely. So Williams has got APIs wherein you would be able to just push the content to Williams and get questions in return, and it can be integrated very well with any platform as well. So I have a user attendee who's asking me, I have a video-based content. Can I use Williams to generate questions from the video-based content? So this is pretty interesting. Thanks for this question. So what Williams can do is, let's say if your video-based content, if you have transcript for the video, then Williams can get transcript as an input, and it can generate questions based on that. Michelle Watts is saying, for short answer responses, how reliable is this since student can explain a concept correctly in different ways? That is words and phrases. Pretty interesting question, Michelle, because of course, like if you see the short answer responses, then currently Williams is handling it using describe and explain kind of questions, where it again goes back to the content and brings up answers from there. And of course, it uses a lot of context sensitivity while it creates question on the short answer type questions here. Yeah, so Prashant, he's asking a question. He says, do you have any plans to support EPUB and other formats like direct web link capturing? Yes, so here, I think Williams has planned to support EPUB because I understand that when you use a lot of content from publishers directly, the published content, they provide the content to the platforms in EPUB format. And of course, like Quillians has got its like this thing on the roadmap wherein Quillians will support ebook. And of course, like direct web links capturing is also on the roadmap, wherein let's say you want to use some content from the open education resources, because there is a lot of content available there on OER resources. So of course, like if you supply the URL, then Williams can fetch the content from those links and then create questions. So I think currently it is not there on the platform, but this is definitely on the roadmap for Williams. Yeah, so Rich is asking me, why do you need to select a domain? So again, great question, Rich. Thanks for this. So, selecting a domain is important because if you look at the way AI algorithms work, so once Williams understand that the text what you have tested is from which domain, then it helps Williams in going to right kind of corpuses and look for correct context and understand what are important keywords from your text for the specific domain. So let's say if your content is from history and you have selected domain as management, then of course there is a lot of mismatch. And what happens is, of course, Williams will create questions, but the accuracy and usability of the question may be on the lower side. Yeah, I think I'm so overwhelmed to see that the questions are continuously coming, and I'm so sorry because we are approaching the end time for the webinar, so we may not be able to take all questions. But I assure you that whatever questions you are submitting, I'll be able to answer all your questions if you mention your email ID, and then we'll be able to reply back to you. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking out 30 valuable minutes from your time, and then you're here to listen to which we have presented. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again, Sandeep. And yes, we'll be happy to answer your questions offline. In case you have any follow-up questions, please do drop us a line at sandeep@quillians.com, and we would be glad to answer them. Sandeep, is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
Oh, I'm so excited. Actually, I can talk a lot about Williams and AI in education, but looking at the 30-minute window you have given me, I think we have covered it a lot.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure having you all here, and we appreciate your time. Today's webinar, you'll be receiving an email with the link of the recorded session, and that's about it then. Thanks again, and you have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you.